What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Live on Keystroke Medium.
You sound like shit.
Something's crazy. Echo.
Yeah. Hello?
You sound horrible.
It's not good.
Really? I just sounded fine.
You did sound fine right before the show.
You were right. Pre-show was awesome, but now you sound like you're gargling and talking at the same time.
Do it again. What about what?
Any better?
That was a little better. Keep talking. Say more than a...
Hello?
Just do the whole spiel again. Start with the...
Can we have more than 2 syllables?
Hello? Testing?
Yeah.
Any better?
Yeah, that's better.
I'll tell you what.
Just
happened? As a sound check, just go ahead and repeat everything Steve said right before we went on the show. Actually,
that's right. Yes.
Yes, please do.
Okay, I don't know what happened there.
We're talking about pegboards, right?
Yes, pegboards.
For the garage.
So can we just start the show over? Can we?
Yeah.
Here, I'm just gonna
go back to the intro.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes. My mic is working. Steve Beaulieu's right there. Scott's down there, and Chuck is there. Welcome to everybody in the live chat. Man,
Josh is
goes by, and we have
there.
absolutely no idea how to run a show. Corey Gillum gets the non-Rick Partlow golf clap of appreciation. Thank you very much, Corey. We appreciate that.
Super loud clap.
People are so shocked we actually came on today.
I know. They're like, well, look who decided to do a show today.
Special.
Patricia, hello. Trucker Charlie D is in California today. Oh, look, Rick decided to show up. Hi, Rick. Hello.
Rick decided to show up, says Sean Connery.
Yeah, true. Kayleen and Lou Holston are in the house. Welcome. Who else is in here? Oh, look at that. Menace 85. I listened to the podcast on 1.75 speed. It's a little unsettling to hear the intro music in real time. That's amazing. That's awesome. 1.75. That I need to do that because I want to sound how fast I talk at almost double speed.
You know what I wish is I wish that every time I called you, Josh, I could have the phone call at 1.75 speed.
That was
so now that we're going to have a really good show. Now,
remember that time Steve hurt your feelings on live?
Now you have to tell everybody where we are again. We all moved.
Oh, it's musical chairs on the show today. Hey, we're going to have a fun time today talking about whatever we want to talk about. Yes, it's been a couple of weeks since we have done a show, and there are reasons for that, and we're going to work it all out. So I'm going to go first. I don't usually go first on the updates, but I'm going to go first today. As you can see, I'm standing because I got a new desk.
First or last.
That's right. Shake and bake. So the reason we are having trouble keeping up a daily or a weekly schedule is I went back to the police department as a reserve, and now I'm back on the bomb squad, and their training days are on Tuesdays. And so we're trying to work out what is going to be the best schedule to keep us going and also not have Scott have mental breakdowns every week while he's trying to sleep during the day.
I'm pretty tired at sometimes, yes.
So we're going to figure it out. It's just taking a little bit of time. Let's see. What have I done in the last 2 weeks? I finished Trank 2. And what is Jaime? Look, what is he doing?
He's raising his desk so he can be standing up too.
all I saw was the top of his head, like. That's awesome. Hi, Steve.
Are we raising desks?
This is the point of the show.
I actually just got rid of my standing desk.
Because it's the point of the show where you're like, I like pizza, Steve.
Is this okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
That's good. It really helps with the branding because really always sees the top of your head.
And honestly, we've had worse camera angles for guests before.
Oh God, yes.
Not a horrible.
Oh, can I submit the worst one ever?
Yes.
David Weber.
No, actually,
No.
Ever, the guy had his laptop like basically right here, but it was open, and so you were like,
you were basically it was a nostril shot for one for like it was straight up the booger holes.
So, So I finished Trank 2. I got it sent in to Steve 2 weeks ago, and so now it's going to edits. and Devin and I are in the midst of planning the final book in the trilogy, so that is fun. I finished last week after finishing Tranquility. I took a whole week.
I thought you said pinching Tranquility.
Pinching Tranquility. So
Your sex tape.
last week to do a sample submission that I can't talk about. It's super secret, but it was a fun time, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about it here in the near future. But I got to work on something completely different. I got to work on a fantasy project, and the writing in it was very different. And Scott read it, and he liked it, although he could have been holding his fingers behind his back and just lied.
I loved it. It was a fantastic story that I think you should write more of.
Best story ever. And so that was fun. Oh, did I knock I knocked all my stuff around. The show is just going crazy today with
we need to focus. Anyway. Come on, people.
So after that, let's see. Oh, so this week I am diving into Savage Stars, not Savage Stars, or what I'm calling Sentinel, which is my next solo project for Athon. And
Savage Sentinel?
Savage, yeah, I don't know.
Sentinel Savage.
There was already a Savage Star.
Sentinel Savage!
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I was so mad because I was like, this is the coolest series title ever. And then I go on a whim and I type it on Amazon and I immediately shoot myself in the foot. So they're action figures, not dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas says the Flame of Valor, and it's super hot.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know. Get canceled. Good
First
job.
of all, y'all are talking to me, and look at
ASM canceled,
and his royal kingly picture behind him. If you haven't,
yes, that is very cool.
So yeah, I'm jumping back into Sentinel this week, and I absolutely am loving doing that project. I think it's going to be really fun, and different than Valor, as it doesn't take itself so seriously, and it's just a really fun, simple John Wick-esque type story. So it'll be fun. And hopefully I can finish that up here in about a month and a half or so at the rate I'm going, and start working on book 2. And make Steve happy for once instead of him demanding, "Where's your book?" I'm like,
I don't demand.
Chronicle going, you can't.
No, you don't, and I'm so grateful for that.
Hey, Chuck hasn't turned in the story, Steve.
Yeah, no shit.
Steve.
I never demand.
Leo said, "What about Flamer Valor?" Okay, well, that's my update. And I'm like 3 hours away from finishing the Luna Missile Crisis. I mean,
hold on, it was 2 hours last time I talked to you. Did you go back?
No, it was 4. And then I got the great idea to make my son mow the lawn, so I didn't have to do it that week, so I missed out on an hour that week. But I didn't have to mow the lawn. First of all, I just got to say, great story. I didn't know where it was going to go when it started, and even at about the 30% mark where I'm like, okay, I got to figure it out, it was still interesting, and it had some twists in there that were really fun. The mutant deal was amazing. I thought that was my favorite scene so far in the whole book. I love that.
The dead curtain.
Yes, the dead curtain. So if you haven't read Luna Missile Crisis, check it out or listen to it. The audiobook's fantastic. Great story. I loved it. And
you should do that. You should get an audiobook and you should come mow Josh's yard.
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
Good call, Scott. Somebody give that guy a raise.
What does an Amy Duboff character look like?
What? Huh?
Somebody said I look like an Amy Duboff character. I think it's because I was fucking around with my background.
Yeah, I think all of Amy's covers have like starbursty.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Stars and bursts.
Sci-fi background.
Like it is look like it's coming. Like it looks like he's a holy figure. Like the stars coming out from behind.
It's the only time anyone's ever said that about Chuck.
That is absolutely true.
It's not Papa Chuck, it's Father Chuck.
Father Chuck.
No. Heathen Chuck is more like it.
Padre Chuck.
Like all of
Hopeless.
our feeds blip out as lightning. Is
Chuck, the Space Padre.
I actually kind of like that.
That is kind of good, actually.
Since we're talking about Father Chuck, you go first.
Go ahead. Go for it, Space
Oh,
Padre.
jeez. How long's it been?
84 years.
Just feels that way.
7 years.
Okay, well, I'll start with today. Is my daughter's birthday. She's turning 13. So I've been out. We had festivities this morning and festivities tonight after she gets done with batting practice.
Nice.
I actually did get to do some writing yesterday. She got picked up for an end of season tournament this weekend, so she was at a practice for that. And they actually had picnic tables close to an outlet, so I actually could plug my laptop in. So I got some work done last night. The grandchildren and my oldest daughter were all here for they left yesterday. Yesterday morning they left. So they were here for 4 days. And still inching towards the end of Jack Dark book 2. And son was in a run of newsies for 6 or 7 days. And, it's busy.
Oh, yeah, dude.
What does that mean?
What, busy? I think you know.
No, newsies.
Newsies is a play that Disney put together based on a historical event from the early 1900s.
That's the first movies that Christian Bale was in.
Yeah, and it's about all the newsboys back then were basically the distribution network for.
They called them newsies, didn't they?
Yeah, they called them newsies, and they were basically the distribution for all the newspapers. Without them, nobody bought a paper. And the newspaper people, I think it was Vanderbilt or one of those guys, they decided to raise the prices on the papers that the kids had to buy to sell without doing anything to help them compensate. So they just went on this big strike. So you had all these street kids all over New York who were basically taking on, who was it? It was one of the big rich dudes from back then. I can't remember which one, but yeah, it's a pretty intense story and got violent in some ways. And, cause there weren't a lot of labor laws back then. And, they made a movie and play and stuff out of it. And the community theater here locally just did a run, and my son was in it, and I was helping with that.
Awesome.
So yeah, basically I've just been usual story with me, family and getting the words in where I can.
The Newsboys Strike of 1899. The Newsboys Strike of
1899
was a youth-led campaign to force change in the way that Joseph Pulitzer ran up Hertz's newspapers were done.
Yeah.
See, to me, you can't say Newsboys without me just thinking about the Christian band, the Newsboys. That's true. It's just I never even thought there was something else called the Newsies.
But yeah, it was pretty good. They did a good job on it. They did a good job.
Post here. Hayes descends on House of Collectible Dolls. Fire of Valor rages.
Nice. Well, Corey Gillum said, and they like to sing and dance with jazz hands, which goes really well with today's theme. So
we have a theme.
You have a theme. It's jazz hands, apparently.
What about you, Steve? What have you been up?
Man, I've had a month. Like a crazy month. We had our first family vacation. Well, let me say it this way. I had my first vacation in 5 years. 3 years ago, I had a vacation that ended in me losing my job, which is a whole new story, right? But that's the birth of Athon. So
it was a rocky birth.
It was a rocky birth, but it happened. But I hadn't had an actual vacation other than that in 5 years, and I don't consider that one because it was such a tumultuous season of my life. And it's the first family vacation we've ever been on that didn't include grandparents in some capacity. The four of us have never just gone and done a thing. And I drove. Awesome. Yeah, it was so much fun. I drove for 52 hours. Total 52 hours. We drove from Texas to Delaware to spend some time with Rhett and his family, and we stopped in the Smoky Mountains, we stopped in Memphis, we stopped in Roanoke, Virginia, and we just did a bunch of things along the way. And
did your wife say, "I'm going to drive something for you today this time"?
But
then
notably did not stop in Wichita, Kansas. Notably.
So there is no stop.
All he had to do was take a slight right turn detour, and he could have swept through northern Alabama, no problem.
So the Wichita, Kansas, we tried very many times to figure it out. It's just an extra 5 hours out of the way, no matter. There's no way to do it. So
in the armpit of hell. So
So we, my wife knows how much I hate being driven around. I'm not like, alpha man, macho man. I'm not that at all. The beard is the only thing manly about me whatsoever. But I just don't like being driven around. I prefer to be the one driving. So I did give her a ration of crap one day where I'm like, man, I'm so tired. I feel like I'm going to pass out. And her response was, you need to get a coffee. And I'm like, you mean you need to say, can I drive for a while? Instead of like, let me drive for a few minutes, go get drugs.
That's it.
Yeah, true.
So we did that. And then on my last day driving home, I got a cold, which you could probably hear. My kids had it. They gave it to Rhett, and then Rhett gave it to me. We made out one too many times, and just
it happens. Especially if you're wearing Peloton pants while you do that.
Yeah, exactly. So we the Plug-a-ton pants.
The Plug-a-ton pants make it way worse.
So I'd done my best to catch up on all of my Athon work, and I failed. Apparently, I failed miserably because I got home and I looked at my list. I'm like, holy crap! I'm not going to sleep for the next 2 weeks. So, and then instead of working, I'm like, hey Josh, can I come on KSM and hang out?
True.
So that was me.
It really is the right thing to do.
You missed us. Just admit it.
I did. No, I really, really did. That's the only reason I'm here. I did finish. Rhett and I finished Cold as Hell, book 1 in the Black Badge series. So that is.
I'm looking forward to that one.
So we have a woman by the name of Diane. Holy crap, I forgot her last name. Diana.
A long last name.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I'm so embarrassed. She's our editor. She's our dev editor. She did all of Charlene Harris's books.
Wow.
And a handful of others. And so
like
we turned into her.
Snooky, what is it, Snooky?
Yeah, the
True Blood.
The True Blood. Yes.
Whatever.
So she did a bunch of that. And Charlene Harris also has a weird Western series. So there's a really nice sort of fit there. And so she is our dev editor. She now has it, and she's going to go through it and see what sucks.
So, the whole thing. You're just going to have to rewrite it.
Probably. I'm going to let my cat out because she won't stop meowing.
I'm waiting for my beast back here to start being a problem.
That adds some ambiance.
Every time she says this part sucks, just say Rhett wrote it.
I'm pretty sure Rhett wrote that part. That's what you say.
That part's really bad. You just Rhett wrote that part. You have to let it go.
I tried to tell Rhett to fix that.
It's probably how it'll go.
You gave me the finger.
That was the best time. That's the best thing about working with Richard. Everything was like, oh, Richard wrote such a good book, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, this is the worst book Richard's ever written. And I'm like, it works both ways, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a $20 bill. Says you won't send me a copy of the early product so I could take it a look, but
I got one of those too.
Yeah, just saying.
What was that? What did I miss?
Send us early copies. That's what you missed.
For an early copy.
Yeah, for sure.
Shaking you down. That's a real point.
I would say I'll probably let it go through dev edits, and then because I don't know. I mean, I've never worked with because Rhett and I work together. Rhett, in case you don't know this, Rhett used to be a dev editor. And he's probably one of the best dev editors I've ever. I mean, he's just so good with stories. We've never really had a need to do anything like that. When you're working 2 people on something, I'm very heavy into the technical writing, the flow of sentences, the kind of the musicality of a story. Right? I I'm not sure if readers realize this, but one of the things that makes a good story is when it's read musically.
Yeah.
And
Right.
as a musician, like that just is a thing in my head all the time. And so prose and dialogue should just feel very musical. And that's where I sort of shine. Rhett is so good with stories that anything I ever write, even if his name's not on it, I'm like, hey, tell me what I screwed up. And he comes up with things that I never even would have thought of. And then once he says it, I go, oh, God, that was so stupid.
Yeah.
And so that's what a good dev editor is for me, is somebody that catches the things that, maybe only 1 out of 10 people might realize, but like you don't want to have those dumb things in your stories.
Especially when they're avoidable. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like if you have the opportunity to have that stuff found and corrected before people get it in their hands, absolutely, I would take advantage.
Josh and I had a long talk about this morning, and I'm going to try to, because I have a problem with outlining to completion. I'll outline and then start writing about halfway through the outline, which works for me, but I'm going to try to do some things where I get a good, thorough, outline or something like that, and send it to, just get a little bit of dev edit from Josh, because he's good with the story and the outline, the structure, and making sure things aren't too coincidental and shit like that. So, always good to have. It's good to have a few go-to people that have. Everybody has their own strengths. They can all bring to the table.
And I read out loud. I don't know if anyone does that.
I do that. I always do that on my pass for, like, I always give it a kind of a rough editing pass before I send it to anybody, and part of it is reading it out loud to myself.
Yeah, I read it out loud and I listen to it.
I try to go for that musicality, so that you have that rhythm in the voice. I mean, I've found that other people are better at that than me, because I'm not a musician. My family are all musicians, and they've tried to teach me, but I'm just incapable of hearing the difference in notes, and I mean, it's silly, but
it's all about the syllables, really. Like, sentence has
there's a rhythm and length and phrasing. I guess the musical term you're looking for is phrasing.
Yeah, maybe
there's very much how long a sentence goes, how long the next sentence is, how they tie together in a larger theme.
Oh, I tend to write longer sentences, which breaks that up. So that's something I try to watch myself as I'm putting out drafts. And
like, even if you just watch this conversation that we're having here, like, nobody gets to say 4 sentences before somebody else talks.
Right.
That's normal dialogue, and when you have a 14 sentence long dialogue, that's when it starts to become unrealistic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, did we get Scott's update?
Nope, he's out. He's next,
because he has. Well, it's been a couple of weeks, but I'm kind of digging the organization behind him there, with all the books and the posters and the I Love Me wall back there. That's pretty cool.
I've been having some fun with the. So this is my oldest son moved out a little bit ago, and I've been moving in here and doing stuff. And when I first tried it, it was so echoey. Now these dynamic microphones, it doesn't really matter what the acoustics are of this room as far as the voice thing goes, but like when I voice dictate or something, so I put down, it has carpet, but I put down a rug to have my chair on, and I started doing these sound panels and stuff, and it's been fun. And then I I wanted to face my books out, kind of see them, and so I got these like clear, because they kept falling over because they're mostly paperback, so I got these clear bookends, and so I have those basically holding the books in it. It's real nice and tidy, although it's a lot of bookends. I got like 50 of them now. So
that looks good though, man. It looks
if you can see up on top, there's a stack of George R.R. Martin books up there.
Oh yeah,
there's 4 of them. So when we went to Santa Fe last weekend just for a family trip, and I remembered, oh yeah, George R.R. Martin lives there. So, and then people in the group said, well, you should go to his bookstore. I'm like, that's right, he does have a bookstore. So I went to Beasley Books and I bought those 4 autographed copies, which is crazy because like this college student is sitting there behind the desk, real timid type, your stereotypical bookstore worker, in a small one. And I bring these books and I ask if they have the first one. They don't, because it's sold. They don't have it. I said, well, I'll take these. And she's looking at me like, you're fucking crazy to spend as much as it cost to buy 4 autographed hardback books. But she was real nice, and I bought them, and then I left.
You know what's really cool though
It said it's an unfinished book.
It's in an unfinished bookstore. God,
You know
he beat me to it. He beat me to it. I was going to make that joke.
He didn't beat me to that joke, but I was going to say, you know what's really cool about those 4 autographed books is that's the most George R.R. Martin has written in a very long time.
Oh, I know. I know. It's crazy. He added 2 new words to those books where he signed his name. It's great. But yeah, it was cool. But the neatest thing about that bookstore was it had all of his books that you know about, but you never see, like some of those other, like these kind of quasi superhero stories he edited.
Wild Cards.
Yeah, Wild Cards.
I read
It had all of the hardback comics. It had tabletop games in the big boxes, and then lots of other sci-fi authors, kind of in there too. So it was pretty neat.
Is the Armageddon Rag? It's the book.
Yeah, it had a bunch of those. Yeah.
You know what my favorite George R.R. Martin book is?
I know that one.
Fevre Dream is amazing.
I haven't read it, but that's the one about kind of that like vampires and steamboats.
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't know either one of those.
I almost bought it. It had a fantastic cover.
It was one of his biggest failures, and I think he wrote the Armageddon Rag like right before he started writing Game of Thrones or something like that. I could be wrong on the timeline, but he wrote Armageddon Rag and sold it, but it wasn't.
I think the Armageddon Rag,
Your mic is getting weird again. Gosh.
About once a month in my house, this thing called the Armageddon Rag happens.
Usually right after the plug-a-thon short. The Armageddon Rag, I think he got a big advance. I read something in his bio blog about that. I thought that's the one he got a huge advance for, but then it didn't really do that well, and it kind of killed his writing career for a while. And he started doing more working with screenplays and TV shows and stuff, and he wrote some things, and then the Game of Thrones was largely written in response to, because he wrote for Beauty and the Beast. Do you remember that TV series?
Yeah, with Ron Perlman.
Well, you couldn't show any blood or anything where people died. Like if a car wrecked, you had to show them get out of the car, and that stuff. And so it was a little bit as a response to this. I can't believe that we have this character who's like some sort of werewolf that is going out and slaughtering all the bad guys, but it has to happen off screen, and you have to imply that nothing bad happens. So then he wrote Game of Thrones.
So then he went in the complete opposite.
Right.
This is what it would really look like if you had a werewolf rampaging through the night and whatnot. So we did that. I finished all the edits and got Orphan Wars 3 loaded up. It's live now. It published on the 25th. It's so crazy because back in the day, you launched a book and that's all you thought about. And now I almost forgot that it was launching. And so Orphan Wars 3 is out. It's called Samurai Guns. I really like it. It's a good one. It goes a little bit different place. Blue Sun Armada 2 Crisis comes out tomorrow.
Nice.
So that's kind of fun. And then I will have the first book in that series, Blue Sun Armada, will be free as an ebook on the 29th and 30th if anybody wants to pick it up or share it around on their social media. Just kind of hopefully get some movement on those two. So enjoying that. I'm going back to writing Reaper books and just kind of writing all kinds of stuff right now. I got way too many projects at once.
That doesn't sound like you.
I know. Really?
It sounds like you need like 1 or 2 more, actually.
I know. I really should have a couple. Maybe in some other genres, too.
Let's not get crazy.
Yeah. I haven't written any Space Rabbi stuff yet. So
on romance.
Oh, Space Padre, sorry.
Chuck the Space Padre.
Space Padre.
Romance.
Yeah, active romance, Space Padre, right there. That's where we're going. Lit RPG, space opera, Space Padre.
Hey, there's got to be a market.
Active romance. I'm sure it'll be good. So that's pretty much it.
Co-written by Chuck Tingle.
Yes. The Tingle.
What did somebody highlighted something? Somebody shared something the other day. I think it was on Facebook that people thought it was Chuck Tingle, but it actually wasn't. And it was like a real thing. Now I can't remember what it was.
Say that again.
They shared a book, and somebody had made a comment like, "Isn't that Chuck Tingle or something?" And it was like a book like his, like.
But it was actually a book.
Velociraptor porn or something.
Right, exactly.
I think I like. I guess I'm writing a romance novel called Kansas City Love by Coyote Moon. So watch for
Kind
that.
of digging that.
Watch for that. That's coming out. That's going to happen.
That sounds legit. I'd be down to read that.
I read the look inside of a Chuck Tingle book recently. Has anyone ever done that?
No,
I think I did. They're not very long.
I can't get past the covers.
35 pages, man. I got so curious, right? Because he wrote this one, and it clearly had something to do with Trump. It was, I don't remember what the writing was, but I don't remember what the title was. Just had something to do with Trump. So anyway, I thought I'd read it. They're 35 pages long. He sells them at $4.99. This dude's bank, he's got hundreds of reviews on these things. I don't know what's going on.
Because it's all meme. It's like when Dogecoin went to like 50 cents a coin for no reason at all. It's a meme book. And people just are like, oh, this is interesting. I'll buy. It's like people dumping, $50 on something ridiculous that they're never going to use again just to say they have it.
Like all those toys back there?
Pet rock.
Listen here, Kettle. Okay? You have a 12-inch baby Yoda on your shelf right there.
This guy traveled all over the country.
For a fact, it traveled across country with you.
All over the country. And then we've got Lloyd Christmas right there.
in his orange suit. I love that.
Yeah, Lloyd. And speak of the devil, we've got Mr. George R.R. Martin.
Oh, yeah.
I actually started listening to a Game of Thrones the other day before I was writing out these sample chapters, just to kind of
to steal George R.R. Martin,
just to get kind of a rhythm.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, there's kind of a rhythm to books and how you write them, and there's a very different rhythm in fantasy.
The rhythm is going to get you,
like mill sci-fi. I am just going to start exiting people out of the show. Glorious podcast host. Well, now that everybody's given their updates, what do you guys want to talk about?
I want to talk about that. What's that? Are we all familiar with the guy who put the giant rant in his author bio? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should talk about.
What is that guy's name? He's
the dude with the cartoon covers.
Yeah.
Of course, it'd be a lot better topic if I knew.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, you love it.
We don't say his name.
What was his?
That's all fine.
Find it.
While you're doing that, I started watching the Dresden Files show. Has anyone done?
Wait a minute,
yeah, I even have the DVDs.
All right, so let's back up because Chuck did what I did the first time, right? Like I remember watching it several years ago, going, "This is the biggest hunk of trash I've ever watched."
It was disappointing.
I started it over, and I changed my tune completely. Now it is still bad, right? Because it was like very poor. It was low budget.
They had no budget,
right?
No budget.
But the first time I watched it, I think I was just so pissed off that Paul Blackthorne or whatever his name wasn't James Marsters that I was just out. I'm done. I don't want it.
There was a lot of that.
But you know what? He did a great job.
With what he had to work with, I thought he did. And there were actually a couple of the changes that I didn't hate. Like a lot of people were bitching because they used an actor for Bob instead of the whole skull, just the flaming animated skull or whatever. I didn't actually hate that because TV's a visual medium. It's not a book. It's a TV show. Things have to be a little bit different if it's going to sell as a TV show. And there were a few things like the hockey stick is his staff. I thought that was kind of cool.
I don't think I've gotten to that yet.
And then as much as I was disappointed in aspects of it, and mostly it was just that they didn't have the budget to do it right. It was obvious they were lowballed on the money end of things because they just didn't have money for special effects like you'd need to make a show like that successful. Right. But they, storytelling wise though, they actually did a really good job wrapping the series up because I've watched the whole thing multiple times. And
you have to be a reader of Dresden Files to watch.
Not necessarily.
No,
not necessarily, because they try to kind of shoehorn some of the actual books in there. But the book stories were just the biggest letdown for me is they tried to do the whole second book, the Full Moon books with the werewolves. in like 2 episodes, and you just can't. And without the budget and the special effects, you just can't do that.
Right.
It's just, there was a lot missing, and it just. But overall, there were some really good episodes, and I thought they made a nice wrap up to the story. It felt like a whole cohesive story that ended up being kind of centered around Bob. So in a lot of ways, it wasn't terrible, but I think it suffered more from bean counters screwing it up than it did from the creative team screwing it up.
And isn't that the case with like everything?
Yeah, I mean, I got frustrated with the first time through things that didn't bother me while I'm watching it this time. I think I just had enough time to go, okay, this is different. And I say this, and this almost sounds like shameless, but like Rhett and I have been talking a lot with Hollywood stuff for some of our, and we've been hearing all of this is going to change, here's why this is going to change, yada yada yada, from our books to any other medium. And as I was watching Dresden, I was going, oh, now I see exactly what they're talking about. Like Dresden's got a Jeep,
right?
Blue Beetle, right?
Blue Beetle, right?
You know why? Because somebody had a janky ass Jeep sitting on a set somewhere, not being used, that they didn't have to pay for.
Right.
Exactly. Money.
Right, so like they just went. Who cares if it's the Blue Beetle? Here's the Jeep. It doesn't even matter.
People that are going to watch the show care whether or not it's the Blue Beetle.
Well,
sure,
that's crazy too, because you look at a Blue Beetle is known in the book series.
Right.
People that most of the people that watch this show don't read the book, so they're not even going to know.
They don't realize it's that big a deal to the fan base. Would it have been hard to get a old Beetle? I mean.
No, I don't know, but like the way he describes the Blue Beetle in the book is it's not even blue, right? Like it started out blue, and now it's
a patchwork of parts. The only reason he uses it is because it's so old. It doesn't have electronics that his wizardness can screw up. So,
and I think that actually is another good reason not to have done the Beetle, right? Because no matter what they did with the Beetle, people would be going, "Well, the back bumper's supposed to be yellow. It's not."
Well, that's also true,
right?
I think they should have done it as a Jeep, but just called it the Beetle all the time. And people like, well, it was a Beetle when we started. Now it's this.
And you got to ask, like, why was Murphy a brunette instead of a blonde, right? Like, because she was the better actress. I don't know. Right. So many things that you look at and you go, why couldn't they have just done this like the series?
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. I think, though, if you look at the core story of it, I firmly believe the creative team they did the best they could with what they had. It's kind of the way I viewed the whole thing.
It sounded a lot like Jim. Like the narrative, everything sounded like Jim Butcher.
It really did. Well, he was. I mean, I saw some videos of him on set, kind of.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how much influence he had, and maybe it was just like a one-time set visit kind of thing. But yeah.
And even the main actor, when he's doing that voiceover, there were times I went, "Oh, he actually sounds like James Marsters a little."
Yeah, he had that kind of
Paul Blackmore or whatever his name is. Sounds like he got punched in the jaw and like his lips swelled up. And so he kind of has that like mush mouth talk thing that
Patricia has a good thought to start the series with "The Beetle was on fire and it wasn't my fault."
Right, that would have done.
That's a great opening line.
That would have carried it. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy because I read books and then go watch the TV show or the movie or whatever, and I get the same thing you guys get, where I'm like, why didn't they do this and why didn't they do that? And then I have to remind myself that the book audience is much smaller than the TV audience would be, because I'm like I don't know what the ratings are or what the numbers are for like the Nielsen ratings they do on TV, where they do, like 20 million people watch the Oscars, right? Well, in the grand scheme of things, 20 million people is not a lot of people at all, but it's a much bigger audience than bought, your book, right? So the audience difference is crazy, and probably the people that are paying for it don't really care. They're
like with Luna, we have about a 30,000 person baseline, right? That's like who we want to reach to eventually get this thing going. But the goal is going to be 20 million watchers, right? Or however many Netflix or wherever it ends up. That's the goal. All we need to do is make a product that passes muster for the core group of people that we're sort of trying to please on that end of it. And I think that's where they missed it with Dresden a little bit.
Put a Blue Beetle in Luna Mr. Crisis to make up for the loss in the Dresden Files.
I should.
And then everything will be balanced in the universe and we can move forward.
But it just pissed everybody off, I think, from the Dresden.
No,
books.
I agree.
It was just
I agree.
You didn't do what we wanted.
I'll be really interested, and Steve, you'll back me up on this. I'll be really interested to see how the Wheel of Time show does against its fans, and not because of how the production value is or anything like that. Steve and I read the first 2 books and could not read any more.
Dude, those things are.
It's not a testament to the story. I don't think it's a testament to that's how the writing was enjoyed or whatever, and it just was not what I wanted to read. It was long, it was drawn out, it was boring, and
I read those when they were new, and I struggled to get through them.
Well, Steve, Hank Garner, and me started a podcast to read the books all the way through and then talk about the books as we read them. And we didn't get to the second episode, and we had people going, how come you guys don't have girls on your panel? You don't understand what he did for women in the books, or the magic over here is much more than you're talking about. And we're like, do you guys not understand that we're just talking about our feelings? It's not a sweeping declaration of what the Wheel of Time is.
Yeah, it's not like your opinions actually matter.
No, we weren't thinking deeply, right? Like the whole point of the show was let's talk about it as we read the books.
Right.
No foreknowledge of what happens in book 10 versus what happens in book 1. And if you just read it like that, first of all, book 1 is freaking long. Book 2 is freaking long. Yeah. And by the time you get to the end of book 2, you've gotten maybe, I don't know, 100
not far
story.
Yeah.
Like you might have read 900 pages, but you could have taken out every description of flowers and just told me the story, and it would have been 100 pages long.
I think I made it to book 4, and I finally just said, "Screw this noise." This is
that's it. That's what I want. I cannot. Our show was nothing. We did 2 episodes. Nobody knew who we were. We were absolutely nobody. We posted on Reddit a couple of times.
Oops, that was your first mistake there. Apparently, it's a tough crowd.
Ate alive by people.
Right, but we had 1,000 viewers on day 1 or 1,000 listeners on day 1.
Yeah.
That thing was we could have had something there, but none of us wanted to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, those 1,000 viewers were probably just people looking to argue.
It's possible, but
we had a lot of people that enjoyed it, right? We did, but it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, and so I'll be. That being said, I'll be really interested to see what those hardcore fans say about the things that because inevitably they're going to change things about.
They have to.
They have to.
Otherwise, you'd have like a 700-year miniseries that never ended.
Right.
But, I've already seen people complaining that it says an Amazon original series. Well, it's not original. Robert Jordan wrote. They don't even understand the simple concept.
Right.
Well, that's already an arguing point.
People not liking what's the show that just came out? He-Man. People not like He-Man.
I haven't watched it all the way through. I started watching it.
I have all in one shot. I loved it.
I watched 3 episodes and I have no problem with it so far. In fact, it's one of the more interesting takes on the He-Man universe I think I've ever seen. I mean, because it really fleshes things out and makes these 2-dimensional characters look real.
He-Man as a kid. I never watched He-Man as a kid. So
I love
with a complete blank slate. I got absolutely no idea what the thing is supposed to be about.
Yeah, but you're the one that's gonna love it, right? You don't have that baseline, so you're gonna love it.
Right.
Freaking well done show. I grew up on He-Man. I had every action figure. I had hundreds of dollars worth of the big giant Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain. I had the whole monorail system that's in Fraternia. I had the whole thing. And I can go back and watch the original He-Man and just admit that it was absolute trash.
It really was.
It was not good. It was my childhood, so I loved it. But you can't go back and watch that and tell me that it was good.
That entire series was nothing but one big long commercial for the toys.
Absolutely.
That's all it was.
So like
you said, when you're a kid, You don't know that.
Right.
But at the same time, it was kind of an interesting, as from a mature writer standpoint, it was kind of an interesting setting. And
it's also the most confused setting in the world. What we've got is swords and laser guns,
magic, cyberpunk, space opera. I mean, it's all over the place.
We've got a tiger and a
talking animals.
I mean, it's absolutely everything
What the hell is that wizard guy supposed to? I've never understood
Somebody
that.
got on an ayahuasca trip and just started writing.
I was just about to say, they all got stoned one night. And they're like, what are all the things we could do?
This is what happened when you write under ayahuasca.
I'll have to watch it this
while
weekend.
since I heard that.
I'll have to watch it this weekend and see. I mean, is it Netflix? Right, Netflix is
Netflix. Yeah. Kevin Smith wrote the series,
and he hated He-Man growing up, which is one issue that I think.
Which is one of the reasons I think this is good.
Yeah. So, episode 2,
he hated He-Man. That the fans are like, well, he hated He-Man, so this is horrible because he hated He-Man.
Potentially,
because it's horrible.
But like his daughter's one of the voice actors, and I think she did a great job. And the second episode, I'll agree with most people, was dumb. It was trash. It was a throwaway episode, right? I mean, Chuck, you watched it. The episode where Tila is all of a sudden like the star of the show. It seemed weird. Oh, Chuck do
somebody screened that? Where's my snip? Snip it. Oh God, I need to right now.
Screenshot that.
Snipping.
Man, that's the most thoughtful Chuck has ever looked.
New.
He's about to give you some He-Man slapdown.
I got it. Woo! Got it.
The little bubbly wizard dude in He-Man just froze him.
There's Chuck. He's back.
I'm back. A little internet hiccup there. Sorry.
Episode 2, Chuck, I was saying the Tila episode where
right.
That was weird. But once you get through episode 5, it's like, oh, that worked. It was fine.
Yeah. I really think that second episode was just sort of a catch-up episode. It was just like, okay, this is where she is now, and and it was. And I do agree they could have tightened that one up quite a bit.
Netflix has actually done a really good job, I think, recently about doing some really well thought out shows, even if the reception is kind of wonky. Like, I thought that the Gods and Heroes show is Blood of Zeus that the Plottr brothers did. We had them on the show.
Yeah.
The show was really good.
Is that animated?
It's animated.
Yeah, it's kind of anime-ish. But it's about the Greeks.
It's
pretty Greek anime.
It's super well done.
Yeah.
They're already. I don't know if they've finished writing. We need to have them back on. They've been on twice now.
The season got extended to a second season. I know.
Yeah, it got picked up, but I thought that they were done writing it, but I'll have to double check. But that show was really good. And then there's another show called Startup. And the first season of Startup was really good. The second season, meh. But I thought they did. Generally speaking, I think Netflix does a really good job on short-run series without going like 15 series.
Yeah, 15. Yeah, they did a really good job with Lock and Key, I thought. And that was really good. I enjoyed that a lot. And there was another one, of course, Stranger Things.
Just for fun and giggles, I just want to throw this out. Like, Netflix doesn't do anything. Netflix just takes a product that somebody slaps it.
Yeah.
But Castlevania, did you guys watch Castlevania?
No, but I've wanted to.
The same people that did Castlevania did Blood of Zeus.
Yeah.
Oh, for real? Okay.
Same studio. Yeah.
Same studio.
Oh, maybe I need to get their contact.
I need to watch Castlevania. It's on my list. I'm on my second watch through The Sopranos right now, and after that, then I'm going to watch Castlevania. But I thought the animation in Blood of Zeus was fantastic, and the storyline, like once it starts getting going, phenomenal. Like really well done storytelling.
I'll have to watch it.
Every time I watch something like Lock and Key or Stranger Things, I think that they need to give me a buttload of money for my Paragons trilogy and do something with that.
How many shows?
Just said that they did He-Man also. So Powerhouse Animation also did He-Man.
Yep.
See, but you look at those three together, and He-Man to me is the best of the three as far as animation quality goes. Because I think I remember seeing Blood of Zeus.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't like that anime look.
Exactly.
Yeah, I much prefer the animation style they use for He-Man.
Then again, I'm sure there's a lot of people who disagree with that. But when,
of course,
the giant long-bodied animation of like Castlevania, and sharp,
stylized.
Yeah, all those sharp features.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's cool. I'll have to check that show out.
Yeah, I'll watch it this weekend.
I've been watching some stuff on Apple Plus.
What'd you watch?
2 shows. One was called Mythic Quest, and it was one of the guys that did Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And it's basically a kind of a behind-the-scenes thing of a MMO company. And it's just full of quirky characters and stuff. It was actually pretty good. There's an elderly writer character in it that I kind of liked a lot because it was.
Wonder why?
Huh? Wonder why?
What?
Fuck you. What you wrote in on, buddy. And then I kept hearing about this one called Ted Lasso, and I watched.
Yeah.
I've had it recommended to me multiple times.
That is very good.
If you still have your subscription to Apple TV, watch For All Mankind. If you haven't,
of course we have it. They can't stop giving it away. Everything you buy from Apple, they're like, have a free year.
Subscription.
For All Mankind, that was good.
For All Mankind was, I think, For All Mankind was the best slow burn show I've ever seen in my life.
Cool.
And I say that because they introduce a character in the first couple of scenes in season 1 that means nothing until halfway through season 2.
Wow.
And it's crazy. And because it's alternate history, right? It's kind of like the Luna Missile Crisis.
Can I ask you, we were worried that was going to be a reason why we weren't going to get this picked up. Is it too similar?
Not similar at all.
Okay, cool. That's what we've been told, and so I haven't watched it yet.
It's not similar at all because while there are some parts of Luna Missile Crisis that take place on the moon, the majority of it takes place on Earth, and there's a whole bunch of other things that are happening that don't have to do with the moon, right? For All Mankind, it's almost all about. I mean, there is stuff that happens on Earth, and in the first season, there's a lot of stuff that happens on Earth. But there's no aliens. It's really a person story. It's about the people and not about what's happening. And I thought the characters were really well. They really take the time to like make you understand and care about the characters and not just throwing things at you. And I cannot highly recommend that enough.
Cool. I'll have to check that one out.
Kid says Yellowstone was a slow burn show. I liked Yellowstone. I liked the second and third seasons a lot better than I liked the first season. But Yellowstone was really good too.
There's some interesting character development things in there that I'm glad I stayed in Yellowstone long enough to see them, because a couple of the characters I really didn't like, but then I realized
I've heard there's really not very many likable characters.
No, they're all bad, but
Yellowstone is like Game of Thrones, but in modern day Montana,
or The Sopranos in Montana and stuff like that. But there's one character in particular, and I just could not get behind her some of the time because how mean she was to her family. But then as you learn the whole story, like, that makes perfect sense. They're lucky that she didn't just stab them in their sleep, you know. But
John, Ken's
latest.
Do what?
Throw up Ken's latest little post in YouTube. That's YouTube. Oh yeah, there it is. We're on a Readers Writers show, so I want to address this real quick.
Ken says, put slow burn setups in
or undress it, either one.
I'm doing it wrong. Sad face.
So, from our experience, Ken, the indie reader base can't handle slow burn. Now, it's not a major insult. I don't mean it like that, but just we've watched 400 book launches. Rhett and I tend to write some things that are a little bit more slow burn, especially Rhett. The indie fan base just doesn't do it. They want, God, I feel like, I'm scared to say this. Indie readers, please forgive me for saying this. Indie readers want to be spoon fed everything from the start of the book, or they don't, because it's bingey. They're very bingey in the way that they read. And so like they don't have the time to.
Well, when you're talking about reading, a book a day and stuff, you want to get to the story.
Yeah.
You're not invested in.
And the other part with what Ken said is doing a slow burn correctly is really hard.
Yeah.
And I would bet that most people who attempt it don't really get it.
I think it takes a lot of practice. I
Well,
really
yeah,
do.
When
And
we
I'll
all
give an example because I haven't, like you guys are talking about all these series, and I'm like really sad because I haven't seen any of them. Like for the last 20 years, I'm so far behind on, I never have any time. So like the fact that I watched Yellowstone far enough to know that it was a slow burn is amazing because I don't finish anything I start. And that's the way I think a lot of people do stuff, because when there's 3,500 books being published a day,
right,
you just pick the one you like. You're not going to have a lot of patience for something that comes at you slowly.
Well, that was the next point I was going to make, right? Like when we all grew up reading books, or even the past like 10 years ago, to get a book, we had to go to the store and spend $21.99 or $14.99 or whatever. And like you had just done that. That's the thing that you're going to read for the next 2 weeks of your life. Now you're on Kindle Unlimited and you just download and you're like reading for 10 sentences. You're like, this shit, I don't want it. Let me get the next one.
Yeah.
And so there's never a chance to like really hook your readers.
Exactly.
Well, you actually have to have some sort of, what do you call it when you narrow things down, because everybody has hundreds of books on their Kindle they haven't read yet, and they're like, I got to get to these, and so they're not going to for the longest time, I never started a book I didn't finish. I just couldn't, no matter how bad it sucked.
Yeah.
But now I'll be, if I get a couple chapters into it and I don't like it, I'm out.
Yeah.
If you don't grab them in that first page, I mean, that's a huge hurdle to get, because I know people.
Tom Hoddle says throw a coyote in chapter 1. That'll fix everything.
But then you watch these shows on Netflix, and let's, like, books and TV are not that much different, right? The ones that really get raved about are the slow burn stories.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you get invested in it and you want to know everything that's going to happen. And so, I think we lost a lot. You see a lot of the traditional publishers getting the slow burn stories, and they do get raved about and great ratings. But again, we get to do what we get to do because of all the wonderful readers out there.
Well, and as I say with everything else, I think it also is kind of genre dependent.
It's definitely genre dependent, but it's also, I think, some authors confuse slow burn and grabbing elements of a story into, like, I can't have both. I have to do a slow burn. And if they just get through this, then they'll have an interesting thing.
Yeah, slow burn doesn't have to be a slow story. Like Yellowstone is not a slow story at all. There's like gunfights in the first scene. I mean, it's not slow, but the deeper plot arc is very slow.
You can't leave any question, right? You said with For All Mankind, you got a character introduced at the beginning that's not introduced. If you go one book without explaining everything that happened, you get the reviews. Well, this was not wrapped up. Well, good for you. I was planning on doing that at the end of the series.
Right.
That's the whole story that you're getting here.
Because there's a question that follows this particular character through. You have glimpses of what she is doing through the first series, but there's no connection between what she's doing and what the other people are doing. You just get like a couple of minute scenes every couple episodes, showing kind of a progression of this track. And it's curious. You're like, why is this? What is going on here? And that slow burn, the payoff for that's why I think like slow burns and payoff are some of the biggest payoffs you can get emotionally in any TV series.
Patricia has a good comment.
Yeah, Patricia's got a really good comment.
It goes to what you're saying, Josh.
And I kind of agree with her.
I think a lot of people have been disappointed with interesting setups and failed payoffs on a lot of shows. I can see that carrying over to books.
Lost anyone?
That is true. That is true.
A lot of people are scarred from that one.
And not a lot of payoff at the end. But if you can do it right, then those payoffs are the more impactful payoffs that you could put in a story.
Sure.
If you pull it off.
I'm also of the mind that the journey that was lost to me was good enough that at the end I just went, that sucked, but man, that was a great show.
I think that I would have been
that's an argument being made, sure.
I would have been okay with we're going to spoil Lost, whatever. It's been out for 20 years. I would have been okay with Lost, the final season, with them being dead. I would have been okay with that if the writers had not said, this is not what we're doing. Like, the writers came out and said they're not dead. There's other things going on.
Right. It felt like they just gave up.
And then it turned out they were. And I'm like, okay, so either you gave up and you didn't know, or you just flat lied to us the whole time. And I had trouble because, like you said, I love Lost. I could still go back and watch the first 4 seasons of Lost and go, this is incredible, powerful storytelling. Because every episode you're like mind blown about what's going on. And then you have to, it's a literal cliffhanger that pushes you to the next episode. Yep. You have to keep watching.
Yeah.
I can't think of another show that's been on in recent history that has pulled you so far through the show while giving you just a little bit and asking questions that you're like demanding answer to. I can't think of one.
I don't think there's been a show that I've watched that made me feel the way Lost did.
Yeah.
I remember, my wife doesn't watch TV like this, but every single time we'd watch it, she'd be like, just one more. And we'd go to bed at like 4 a.m. because we just watched 6 episodes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I didn't start watching until they were mostly done, and I would sit at this part-time job and watch like 7 hours in a row, and then be like, should I watch it in the car as I drive home? No, I shouldn't. That's not safe.
I remember people like, and what is it? 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. I still remember those numbers. And,
right.
People used to talk. There was like big websites that are just developed Lost theories and all that stuff. Like the entire culture was based around it, kind of like Game of Thrones, but in the early 2000s. It was phenomenal, I thought.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're over an hour. It's time to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. From
in this like this series of Lost.
That's right. That's right. We're not giving you any answers until next week. Everybody that hung out with us in the live chat, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us this week. We always like to just kind of hang out sometimes and not really have anything on the agenda and just kind of bullshit all day because that's what we do every other day.
Let's talk about Peloton.
And we should talk about Peloton next time. Yeah, and bike riding.
So is it safe to say we're going to have a schedule change coming for when the show is?
Yes, I'm just not sure when. We need to talk about that. We need to have
a
and see because the every other Tuesday, I don't think it's gonna fly very much longer. So we'll figure it out, peoples. We'll get a good solid schedule, and we'll be back. James, Jamie, Steve, whatever you want to call it.
Steve Beaulieu, Jamie Castle.
I'm a lot of names. I also
have guy.
I have 3 other pen names: Chuck Tingle.
I was trying to talk Josh into, how you say somebody says something and then you answer with Roger, like I get it. Like
Bartholomew.
I'm tired of Roger, so I said I'm just going to say Steve.
Oh, good.
I told him I would say Bartholomew. So the last night we were texting, he said something, and I said something back, and he goes Steve, and I'm like, well played. Well played.
We're wrapping up, but I have to do this. We're going to start a whole new conversation. Sorry.
Go.
Okay, Star Wars. I've told you this, Josh. This drives me more nuts than anything in Star Wars is that the droids, or Roger Wilco did not exist.
That's true.
Did not exist in that world.
Yeah.
Well,
did
maybe
Steve exist? Steve.
Maybe Roger is like some kind of ancient translation of the faraway context stuff that happened, and we just
like that don't bother me. That one makes me crazy,
especially since it's a faraway galaxy a long time ago with robot droids that shouldn't be saying Roger anyway.
Right?
The fact that it gets stuck in your head and you can't stop hearing it.
It's
Roger.
That's worse than Misa, whatever his name.
Misa.
That was also bad.
Jaw.
Whatever. Why do we have to end the show on a Jar Jar Binks reference? Let's see. Ken Britz, Rick Partlow, William Tyler Davis, Corey Gillum, Patricia Gillum, everybody else, Keith Taylor, Thomas Hottle, everybody else in the live chat. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us today. If you're listening on the audio feed and didn't know, we have a live show sometime when we decide to do it. You'll know like half an hour before. We're gonna have a show today. Okay, let's do it. But thank you guys for coming and hanging out and supporting us and enjoying listen to us kind of ramble about stuff. So we'll be back maybe next week, maybe the week after, talking about some reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Media.
Right here on the Peloton.
Later, guys.